Welcome to Aphra's Artifacts, where we do some archaeology of our own and dig into the queer side of Star Wars. I'm your host, Alia Morgaine, and it's so great to have you here. Well, today I wanted to do a reality check all about the Respect for Marriage Act, so that I really wanted to understand what was going on, what it says, what the timeline is, everything about it. So I wanted to do an episode that broke all that down. So the Respect for Marriage Act was a response to Justice Clarence Thomas's opinion, official opinion, after overturning Roe v. Wade, or as part of overturning Roe v. Wade, that previous Supreme Court decisions involving same-sex marriage and contraception should be relooked at. Now, he was the only justice that said those things, but that doesn't mean anything. So Congress went ahead and said, you know what? These liberties are potentially at risk, and so we need to go ahead and take care of it. We need to go ahead and codify same-sex marriage into law, that it is legal. And so that's what the Respect for Marriage Act does. It also codifies into law interracial marriage. Now, people may argue that, these laws are unnecessary because of the 14th Amendment. But the Supreme Court already overturned a decision that was made because of the 14th Amendment. So it's possible that it could happen again. So yes, these laws are necessary because we don't know what the Supreme Court will do in the next couple of years. They've already been shown to be incredibly off kilter. So the timeline. So as I said, the Respect for Marriage Act was created in response to that opinion by Justice Clarence Thomas. And then it was taken to, so that was in June. And then in July, all of this year, July, the House passed the Respect for Marriage Act in a vote that was 267 for, 157 against. 47 Republicans voted in favor of this bill. If that doesn't tell you something, that clearly same-sex marriage is on the right side of history at this moment, then I don't know what does. So 47 Republicans joined, which is fantastic. And then the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer agreed to hold the Senate vote on the act after the midterm elections. So an amendment was brought up to this act that incorporated religious freedoms and liberties such that nonprofit religious organizations would not have to serve same-sex marriages, which I will get to in a minute as to why that is so wrong. So that amendment was put into place, and then in November, so earlier this month, the bill was taken to the Senate, and they voted to move on with debate. So the vote was 62 to 37. It was, like I said, it was a vote to move on to debate the issue. So it was a test vote, and it passed. The Republicans who voted to advance the bill were Roy Blunt of Missouri, Richard Burr of North Carolina, Shelley Moore Capito of West Virginia, Susan Collins of Maine, Joni Ernst of Iowa, Cynthia Loomis of Wyoming, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Rob Portman of Ohio, Mitt Romney of Utah, Dan Sullivan of Alaska, Tom Tillis of North Carolina, and Todd Young of Indiana. So test vote was passed. They're debating on the issue. So the Senate has not yet done their final vote on the bill. That will come later this month or maybe early December. And then it'll have to go back to the House for another vote, should pass the House. And then it'll go to President Biden for a final signature, hopefully by late December. So we're moving on. We're moving forward with this. It looks like everything's good to go. It looks like it will be passed. And oh my gosh, like, it's incredible. I think it's wonderful. Let me go ahead and say the thing I don't like about including all of the religious freedom stuff is that is making it legal to discriminate against a group that is the way they are because of how they were born. I know religious groups don't agree with that, but being queer, I know that I was born queer. I know that my friends were. It's not something you can change about yourself. So that is codified discrimination. And I think that's horrible. I don't care who you are or how it's codified discrimination. And I think that is very, very wrong. And yeah, I mean, I'll leave it at that. So what does this what does this Respect for Marriage Act actually do? So it provides statutory authority for same-sex and interracial marriages. And whereas DOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act, defined marriage as between a man and a woman and a spouse as a person of the opposite sex, the Respect for Marriage Act recognizes any marriage that is valid under state law. And it also acknowledges marriages despite the sex, race, ethnicity, or national origin of either spouse. So, in other words, it allows the legality, codifies the legality of same-sex and interracial marriages, which is absolutely fabulous. It also repeals the provisions that did not require states to recognize same-sex marriages from other states. So since it's federal now, they've taken away that weird, oh, we don't recognize your marriage in our state, but we recognize your marriage in ours, which is completely bonkers and doesn't make any sense. So it does away with all of that. And it allows the Department of Justice to bring a civil action and establishes a private right of action for violations. So the other thing, you'll hear people argue that the Respect for Marriage Act allows for the eventual recognition of polygamy. That is not the case. In this law, it specifically says, no person acting under color of state law may deny full faith and credit to any public act, record, or judicial proceeding of any other state pertaining to a marriage between two individuals on the basis of the sex, race, ethnicity, or national origin of those individuals. It says two, guys. Like, it does not say any number of individuals. It does say two. So that was when it was in the House, and then when it went to the Senate, they added a part. Where is it? Yes, they added gender to the protected groups, and I like that. I'm glad they did gender, because sex and gender are very different, and I think that's important that it recognizes that. Okay, so this is really cool. When it went to the Senate, it was, this was said. So this is earlier this month. Congress finds the following: no union is more profound than marriage, for it embodies the highest ideals of love, fidelity, devotion, sacrifice, and family. Diverse beliefs about the role of gender in marriage are held by reasonable and sincere people based on decent and honorable religious or philosophical premises. Therefore, Congress affirms that such people and their diverse beliefs are due proper respect. Millions of people, including interracial and same-sex couples, have entered into marriages and have enjoyed the rights and privileges associated with marriage. Couples joining in marriage deserve to have the dignity, stability, and ongoing protection that marriage affords to families and children. So I love that. It's like, yes, we think marriage is very important. That's why we want to recognize these marriages that have already happened and will happen in the future. I think that is beautifully stated. When I was doing research for this episode, I came across a couple of anti-Respect for Marriage Act websites or web pages, articles, and they talked about how the stability of marriage is being attacked. And I'm like, these people love each other. I don't see where the problem lies. I think it's ridiculous to determine roles and marriage by your genitals. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to say. Okay, so this was the part they added where they wanted to allow religious freedom in regard to this act. It says, nothing in this act or any amendment made by this act shall be construed to diminish or abrogate a religious liberty or conscience protection otherwise available to an individual or organization under the Constitution of the United States or federal law. And they include a really long list of religious organizations. It says that members of the wide variety of organizations shall not be required to provide services, accommodations, advantages, facilities, goods, or privileges for the solemnization or celebration of a marriage. In other words, it's okay if you don't want to bake a cake for a same-sex couple. You can legally discriminate. Again, doesn't make sense. It, though, does focus on nonprofits. So there is the possibility that a commercial cake baker would not be included, but it still leaves it open for a lot of interpretation. Includes mission organizations, non-denominational ministries. That could include any number of things. So yeah. I am a little skeptical of this religious freedom amendment to the act, but at least we're passing it. At least we're passing an act that allows the federal recognition of same-sex and interracial marriages. So that is what I have for you today. Comment down below on what you think about this Respect for Marriage Act. Do you think it's going to pass? Do you think it has issues? I'd love to hear your thoughts. So remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitter at @AliaMorgain, and peruse my blog at thestarsreview.blogspot.com. May the force be with you.